Hello and welcome to Train Shed Tuesday. A bit later than normal today. I'll come to that in a bit. Had a bit of a busy day. But hopefully people are still watching. So not a lot been going on with model railways. For a number of reasons I've been trying to sort out the train shed. Give it a clear out, and that's kind of put a bit of a stop on building anything. So what I decided to do is to get out a few of these older layouts, and you'll have seen the videos on these if you're a regular watcher, and just have some fun with these. So I've been using my UK one, which works really nicely as a shunting layout, and in fact I've been practicing using it. Normally, like most people, this is where I shunt. So we stand up or we sit high and we get a top view, which is kind of handy for shunting. But if you think about it, the best views of railways are always lower level, where in real life we would see them. And what I've been experimenting with is sitting on quite a low chair, my desk chair. Sorry, I've just moved it to show you. And I can actually shunt here because I can still see to get in. Because these aren't all couplings, you don't need to see the coupling. You know, if you put the coupling hook there and lift, it will uncouple. And that's proving really interesting because I like to be immersed in the model railway, and that's much easier. And I've discussed before the eyesight thing. So people say can't use N-gauge because it's too small, whereas actually for me N-gauge works better. I'm just going to put this on the tripod. There we go. I wanted to do that bit handheld to make my point, but it makes it a bit shaky. So what I was explaining was about eyesight. So for me, I have to wear reading glasses. Now, I've got nothing wrong with my long-range sight. I can hit a target at 300 metres. And when I have my eyes tested, I can read the bottom. I can almost read the printer's name on the bottom of the test card. But I can't see anything 6 inches from the front of my eyes. So I have a depth problem. So if I look at a bigger layout, so if we go here for this, I can focus on here with my glasses, but not at the back. Or I can take my glasses off and see the back and not the front. So that was one of the problems in some ways with double O. So actually for me, N-gauge is better because they're not as deep. I can build layouts in about a foot, which is my, if you like, my focus distance. So in fact for me, and it's one of the reasons I like these little micro layouts, because effectively, I'm going to keep moving this, I've either got to take my glasses off and I can see the loco all the way down there, but if I'm stood here when it gets here I can't see it, or vice versa. So it's one of the reasons I like my micro layouts. So I'm a bit clumsy today. So that's one of the things I've been doing. I've been to a couple of shows. I can't remember if I mentioned them last time, so if I'm repeating myself, please excuse me. But I did go to the Redhill N-gauge Society, which was a nice little show. I met Dave, hi Dave, from the Bluebell Railway, who I used to know. And I met Ian, who's the organiser for the Bluebell show, who very kindly invited me to Bluebell to exhibit next year. And that's a very real possibility, especially if I get around to filling the form in. I also had a quick look at the Bluebell diesel gull. I nipped a Sharpthorn and saw a few diesels come through. The 50 that I've seen before and the 33 that I haven't. Sadly, I missed the 25, which was a bit of a shame. I'd like to see a 25. Haven't seen a 25 since some years ago at the North York Moors. And then this weekend I went to Faversham, which is always a really good show. I like the Faversham show. There's always a number of layouts there that are interesting. There's some really good traders. I think I might have said at Redhill I ended up weakening and buying a cheap American switcher, which I haven't got handy, so you'll have to excuse me. And this time, if you've been watching my videos at Faversham, I weakened and bought this. And this is going to be converted into a UK outline loco with a wagon where the motor is, because the motor's in the coach. I won't go into a lot of it here because I've literally just done quite a bit of a detailed video. But what was interesting was some of the feedback. So people were saying I was wrong. This isn't an implausible loco. It's a well tank loco, which is why it hasn't got side tanks. I think what the point probably people were missing is I want to make it look like a UK loco, so it needs tanks down the side. And I was quite intrigued in the ideas of people saying the body comes off really easily. And of course I could 3D print a body for it, but actually it's going to be quicker and easier for me to convert it, run some tanks along the side, repaint it. I'm possibly going to use this motor, although they need extra weight, the 11106s, just so that I don't have to hack about the motor carriage. And then what I'm probably going to do is put this on. A quick test with this shows it fits, and I could then put a tarpaulin load. And I then have another nice little UK outline loco, which for instance could shunt on here. Really interesting though, I also very kindly got invited to the Grinstead show for next year. Hi Adrian. Which I'm definitely going to think about. The 2-day shows are a little bit more problematic because both the Bluebell and East Grinstead are too close to stay over and too far away to commute easily, because it's about an hour's journey each way. We've done it before. I can do it. It means setting up on the Saturday, so it's a possibility. There's nothing there that's insurmountable. I've just got to look at my diary and see how much I want to tie myself down. But it's very nice to be asked, and I probably will try and get to both the Bluebell and East Grinstead if I can. But talking to a lot of people at Faversham also got me thinking about what is it I want to exhibit. Sorry, I'm going to pause this while I move. And one option is to do this, which is the US layout, because you can shunt or switch a little bit at the front, or you can watch trains go around. I know what I really need is a layout where you can watch trains go around while you're shunting. And that would mean building another layout, which I'm not adverse to. And one of the suggestions, I was talking to Adam, hi Adam, who we've known for a long while, who's bought a couple of layouts off of me. And it's interesting how when you talk to people, sort of they suggest something and sort of it comes in your own head at the same time. And the idea there was I've got this Japanese layout that I can't sell. And I had thought about taking the buildings off it, but I hadn't thought about, well, hang on, I could then use the baseboard. Now, I don't want to use the baseboard to exhibit, but it means that I could use both components. If I take the buildings off, I could make a new Japanese layout with an oval and some shunting so that you can shunt and do the oval. I've got a lot of really unusual Japanese rolling stock and locos. And exhibiting the Japanese layout, whilst it didn't work particularly well as a shunting layout, I did get a huge amount of interest. I've only ever seen 3 Japanese layouts in all the years I've been exhibiting and going to exhibitions. So I'm kind of quite keen to do that. The Sompting Club have got a 6-foot by 2-foot board already made, which would really do that. I'd have to try and get it home somehow because I go there on a motorbike. So there's a few ideas kicking around. This one's continued to be a pain. The point over the back there has had to be thoroughly cleaned again. It's very interesting when I was testing locos and couldn't understand what was the locos, and it's still that point. I think I must have got some PVA mix on it, and I'm just not quite being able to clear it. I've given it a really good clean this time, so hopefully that will do it. But it hasn't endeared me to ballasting track anymore. So certainly whatever layout I build for an exhibition will be Kato. This stuff, you all know it, but this stuff, the Kato track. It's quick and easy to put together, and it's utterly reliable. And by the time you've built scenery and stuff around it, it looks just fine. I would just like to say thank you to everybody. One of the other Train Shed Tuesdays I mentioned about I had finally decided to go and try and sort my head out and start talking about mental health a bit. Thank you for everybody's really nice comments and support. I've done both things now. Anybody that's ever worked with me, particularly in the Army Cadets, is not going to be too shocked to find out that I'm somewhere on the adult ADHD spectrum. I'm very hyper, I'm very driven. I can be very aggravating to work with. I can interrupt, and I don't necessarily play nice with the other children. So nobody's going to be too shocked that one of the assessments has suggested I probably have got adult ADHD. It's slightly complicated. I had my first therapy session today, which is something in the UK we don't talk about. A couple of my American commentators, of course, pointed out it's much more common in America. As I suspected, it's possible I've got to wait for the diagnosis. That I've probably got some PTSD from a number of incidents from some years ago, which I won't go into. This isn't the time or the place. So the two combined are making life a little bit difficult at the moment for a number of reasons. And actually, model railways is a real help. I kind of struggle and motivate myself to do things sometimes, and being able to discipline myself to come down and run some trains or build something is really good. It takes my mind off things. So I'm not going to dwell on that, but I thought it was only kind to update people as a number of people had showed interest. So the railways are still coming along. This one I've got to do some work on. I haven't lost my mojo on it, but basically I've been trying to clear the shed. If any of you remember some earlier videos, excuse my French, but it's a crap hole. And what I've been working on is clearing some of it out. It's all been taken out and put into another cabin so that I can reorganise a bit. I committed heresy. So some of you have a nervous disposition. Underneath that bench at the back was my bits of wood that I might need someday collection, which obviously everybody has to have. And man has to have his. These are all the bits of wood that one day I will find useful. Now, of course, you never use them, because when you go to use them, you think, I better save this for when I really need it. Well, in recent years, I've been a bit better at going, now, as I need it, I'll use it. But it still filled that entire end of the shed. Well, it got tipped. I'm sorry, heresy, I know. I'm sure some people out there now are going to need therapy. The shock that a man has cleared these bits of wood in case I need them pile. I know, but it had to be done. Because it will give me more space in here. But it was quite traumatic. I've had some of that wood for about 10 years. In fact, one bit was a layout that me and Doug built when he was 9, a baseboard, and he's now 21. So that's been around for 12 years. And it's gone. It was a bit of old floating door, actually, that we had. So there you go. Shocking news. I got rid of bits of timber I might need one day pile. I'm going to regret it. Of course I'm going to regret it. Any day now I'm going to go and do a project and just the bit of wood I want will have been thrown out. But there you go. Sometimes you have to do these things. And then I've got to work out what's coming back in here. I haven't thrown all of it. Just quickly, just in case anybody wants reassurance. There's a few bits left up there. And then I've got to kind of rationalise my projects a bit, which is where also the discussions around what exhibition layout do I make. I do want to persevere with this, the US one. And obviously, really, I need to get on with the big Kato one behind me. I'm kind of having creative block on that. I know roughly what I want to do, roughly where the buildings are going to go. I need a bit more inspiration. I need to just get on and build some of the areas. I kind of bogged myself down thinking... It is a bit messy, so you'll have to excuse me. But I know that an industrial area is going there, but of course it links to the hill. Well, I don't know what I'm doing with the hill, so I can't build the industrial area. And I've realised that no, just build the industrial area. And then I'll blend the other bits in when the time comes. Most of the hill I know, that's the raised track up there. I know what will go on there. So I really just need to discipline myself to get on with it. I've got a cunning plan that I could do what I did with the old 001, which is to run a second track here that would run round the shed. I'm not convinced because it takes up a lot of the shed, but it would give me the ability to run some very long trains down the front here while I shunt on here. And I can shunt on here while trains run on there. So I could then have 2 trains running and shunt at the same time. It would need an awful lot of Kato track, but it's one of the plans that's out there. And then of course I'd have my raised area running, so you'd have 1, 2, 3 trains running, and still be able to do some shunting and switching in the front. So there we go. Not a lot happened. Obviously you can't go and visit exhibitions and things like that and still do model railways as well. There's a finite amount of time. That's an interesting thing I used to have actually with the Army Cadets, with the higher HQ of the Army Cadets, where each department would say to us, look, it won't take you long, it's only an hour's extra work a week. And we'd say, look, hang on, I'm doing 6 or 7 hours a week just to do my job. And you want me to do another hour. The trouble is that other department wants me to do another hour, which is reasonable. But that other department wants me to do another hour. And by the time you add all these things, we end up doing 4 times as much work. They've known about it for years, that they need to reduce the admin and the workload. And of course, what happens is every few years, they, like a lot of organisations, a committee writes back to say what they want to do, but not how they're going to do it. Interestingly, there's a number of things when you look going on in the world at the moment where you see this is what happens. People decide what they want to do, not how they're going to do it. So because they've had meetings and inquiry and all this, and the conclusion is we must do this. Oh, good, we've had a meeting, we're going to do something. Well, no, you're not, because you've not decided how you're going to achieve it. And I increasingly see that in a lot of life. Strangely enough, not so much in model railways. You know, with Sompting Club, we knew we needed to clear the shed. We discussed how we're going to do the shed. We cleared the shed. We found a load more room. We know now that the next conversation is, right, what layouts are we going to work on next now that we've got this room? So I think that's, you know, one of my other funny little rants. But that's the trouble, I think, with big organisations. They spend a lot of time working out what needs doing. They need to spend as much time deciding on how they're actually going to do that and making things happen. But there you go. Funny little political rant. It's not really political because I think it applies to every large organisation I've ever come across. Politics, business, companies. Some of the companies I work for, you know, absolutely the same. You know, especially when you're in sales, there tends to be this, we need you to take 30% more money, just get out there and do it. And I can remember having a conversation with one company saying, I can absolutely improve your telesales by stopping making phone calls. And they absolutely believed the more phone calls they make, the more they would sell. But they were making crap phone calls because they weren't preparing for them. They weren't analysing them afterwards. They weren't working smart. And it wasn't an argument I won, although I was, sounds arrogant, but I was right. I knew in my own self when I did it that way, because I refused to do it their way. By taking time in prepping calls and analysing the call afterwards, the next call is really good. If you just keep making calls, whatever you did wrong in the last one, you're going to do wrong in the next one. So, you know, it's an interesting background. Stop, think, orientate, plan, which was a survival and military acronym. But actually, I found it really useful in life. Stop what you're doing. It's not working. Think about what it is you want to do and what you need to do it. Orientate yourself. Where am I? Where are we at the moment? And then plan how to get out of it and achieve what you want. There you go. That's my lesson for today. The usual ramble. Covered all sorts of stuff. I really appreciate the few of you that appreciate it. I'm sure a lot of other people think, what is this idiot waffling on about? I mean, every time I make one of these videos, I lose a few subscribers, but I gain more. But I'm guessing there is a number of people that think, what is this idiot going on about? But I know also that an awful lot of you find it entertaining, which is why I tend to go off piste occasionally and waffle on. Whiffle, that's a good word. Whiffle on about other things. I probably whiffled on long enough. Thank you for listening to me as always, and I'll speak to you again soon.